Okay, I'm going to finish part C from yesterday. Okay, so this was it's not labeled as part C, but anyways, what I'm calling it, since I'm trying to record everything. Do these data suggest there's an association between smoking and education level? Give statistical evidence to support your conclusion.
No.
We've done the statistical evidence. We said it was not independent, okay, because these numbers are not lining up. They're not all the same. However, there is an association.
Why don't you say anything? I thought so.
And I think somebody did mention this yesterday, and we just didn't get a chance to write it because the bell rang.
The lesser education they have, the more they smoke.
Yes. People with a high school diploma are more likely to smoke than those with a 4-year degree.
I wonder why they didn't do people like that don't have a high school degree, like that just dropped out of high school.
Well, they might be including that because it's the highest amount that they have. I mean, since it technically says that they had, I guess by definition, I shouldn't necessarily say with a high school diploma because it's saying that the highest level of education they had was high school, so it could be that they did drop out. So, but it's one of those things that it's not an important detail, so it's not as big of a deal. Yeah.
Well, this is the highest level of education they had completed.
Yeah, it says they completed it.
So it could be, it may not be, it just kind of depends. All right, next part. Does this indicate that students who start smoking while in high school tend to give up the habit if they complete college? What do y'all think?
No. False? No.
Okay, well then tell me why.
Because I don't have any idea. If you say ask, then I might want to change my answer. It doesn't necessarily mean they quit. It just, like, you could still start at that time, too. Like, there's no... No! Oh, I wrote in the wrong one. Oh.
Berkeley, did you have an opinion?
Well, like, there is, like, people with 4-year college, their total is less than the high school, but they still have more non-smokers than the high school people do, even though their actual total of everything together is less. So it would, like, if people were in high school, there's still less of a chance of them to be smoking once they get out, like once they achieve the 4-year college. But we don't know if it's the same people being tested through the years.
Exactly. That's the problem.
Because they're all different people.
Based on this, it does not indicate that, okay? This data does not tell us about trends over time. Okay, it might be a different conclusion if, let's say, they polled you guys when you graduate high school. And then let's say after you've completed 2 years of college, they poll you again. And then after 4 years of college, they poll you again. Okay, then we could possibly make this conclusion. But with the data that we are given specifically, we cannot infer something that's not told to us in this case. Okay? All right. I think this is continued on the back. Okay, so it says to create a segmented bar graph comparing education level among smokers and non-smokers, and be sure to label your graph clearly.
Oh no, I have to draw in this class.
So for segmented bar graphs, does it,
It's like,
I'm sure it matters which one we put where, but would we put the amount of education they have on the x-axis?
So remember with a segmented bar graph, we're dealing with percentages. So it's going to be smokers versus non-smokers is what we're going to put on the bottom. So it's going to look something like, I'm going to put smokers down here and non-smokers. And then on the side, I'm going to have all the way up to 100% because the percentages for smokers should add up to 100 and the percentages for non-smokers should add up to 100.
And then what would the percent be? Percent they smoke? Or chance of smoking? Or, I don't know.
Oh, that didn't do it. 1 second. Why does it keep moving my box?
You probably don't want to put something in the same thing.
Really? We're just going to do it like that. They're just not going to be perfect little boxes this time.
Well, yeah, we're gonna break up the box.
So you know, like, okay, so you have the smokers and the non-smokers, and then we're gonna use different colors to put where they're actually like what percentage of like high school students and like, or I guess the people that completed high school.
I was trying to see. Did we go over these percentages yesterday?
Some of them.
Not all of them.
Okay, so basically, you do the number, okay, of how many people in high school smoke out of the total number of smokers, and you get each percentage in that column. So for the 32 out of 50, 64%. So here, I don't really know how to. So it's 64%, 5 out of 50 is 10%, and 13 out of 50 is 26%. Okay, so these are the percentages that we need. I thought we had gone over them, but I guess we didn't. But it's just doing the total number of high school smokers out of the total number of smokers. The total number of 2-year college smokers out of the total number of smokers. Okay, and then we would do the same thing in the other column. The total number of non-smokers, the non-smokers in high school out of the total number of non-smokers, which is 41%. 2-year non-smokers out of total non-smokers is 11%. And then total 4-year non-smokers out of total is 48%. So those are the percentages that we're going to use to draw this segmented bar graph. Okay, so we're going to start with, I'm just going to start with high school on the bottom. It doesn't technically matter which one you put at the bottom of your thing as long as you label it. So you can, if you want, you can color code it, or if, like, let's say you're doing a quiz or test and you, like, don't want to get out colors or you don't have colors or whatever, what you can do is you can just divide it in pieces and then just put, like, initials in, like, HS for high school, 2YR for 2-year. So for smokers, we have 64% for high school. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to block it off. And I'm just going to draw an HS in that box. Okay, and then 2-year was 10%. So I'm going to put that one in. And then what's left over was the 4-year, which was 26%. So obviously it's not completely perfect, but it's close enough. Okay, for the non-smokers, high school was 41%. Uh, 2-year was 11%. And then everything that's left over is 4-year. Okay, and that would be sufficient. If you want to color code it like we did the ice cream example in the notes, that's fine too. But like I said, if you're just dealing with like 2 colors or you don't have something to color it in with or whatever, this is acceptable. You just need to make sure that things are clearly labeled if you're going to do it or however you do it. Like if you didn't put these labels in here, it wouldn't be right because I wouldn't know what you're talking about. So, any questions about that graph? Any things about it? All right. What other types of graphical displays could you use instead of a segmented bar graph?
Pie chart.
Okay, we could use a pie chart. That's one option. What else?
You could use this like a regular bar graph.
Okay, we could use a bar chart, bar graph, whatever you want to call it. It would need to be a side-by-side, okay, because we're dealing with 2 different things here. Okay, smokers versus non-smokers.
Okay, this sounds really dumb. So forgive me for asking this. What does it mean to be side by side?
That the bars are going to sit right beside each other for each category. I'll draw an example of it. I'm not going to draw an example of the pie chart, but know that you would need to have 2 of them. Okay, that's an important factor here because the pie chart isn't really comparing things. It's just showing you in one thing with one factor what's going on. So you'd have to have one for the smokers and one for the non-smokers.
So segments, it's better when they give you more information. Like when you're
What?
comparing.
Can you say that again?
Segmented bar graphs are better for like when you're getting more information. So like when you're comparing 2 things with multiple variables.
Yeah, I mean, if you kind of want to see how they line up next to each other, I feel like that's kind of a better way to do it. Probably, honestly, the absolute best way is the bar chart because it clearly shows you side by side with both factors being listed. So it's going to show you smokers and non-smokers, it's going to show you specifically high school, and then we're going to label one bar as smokers and one as non-smokers. So it's going to be a little more clear to visualize it without having to kind of estimate exactly where things are falling if you're not doing it like on a computer that's got everything measured out nicely for you. Some of these percentages I'm going to write off to the side just so we have them. They may already be worked out, but mine's on the back of a piece of paper, so it's kind of hard to see what everything is, so just leave some room to the right-hand side to do some stuff. So we're going to have high school, 2-year, and 4-year. And there's going to be 2 bars that touch, and then there's going to be a gap between them.
So for F, or the last bullet point, we're supposed to make the graph?
So it didn't ask for that, but just so you have another example of one, it just asked what are 2 other options that you could use. I'm just drawing this one as an example so you have another one to reference and see the difference. Okay, so I'm going to do smoker in blue and non-smoker in red. So I'm going to do high school smoker. I'm going to do 2-year smoker and 4-year smoker. Okay, I'm going to do the math for those. So high school smoker, so we're doing this out of the total number of high school this time. So it's going to be 32 out of 93. Okay, and I have these already done out. So instead of making you type them all in your calculator, I'll just tell you what these come out to be. Some of them, like I said, we may have already done. Like that one was already done, I think. 2-year smoker is 5 out of 22. Which I think well, if it is done, then it's, anyways. It's 23%. And 4-year smoker would be 13 out of 85. So that's going to be 15%. Okay, we understand where these percentages are coming from? No? Huh? Okay. I was going to say, if not, I can explain it. Because I know I can't, since the paper's not up there, normally I'm like pointing to stuff and showing it, but since I'm trying to record it, and ordinarily I'm going to figure out another way to do this, even if I have to like screenshot the documents and like edit a picture and like write on top of a picture or something. I don't know. That may end up being what happens. I really don't know. We'll get there when we get there. All right. So now we're going to do the same thing, but for non-smoker. So high school, non-smoker.
Oh, I do need to go on that
2-year non-smoker. And 4-year non-smoker. All right, so we're going out of the total number of high school for non-smoker, so 61 out of 93, which is 66%. Non-smoker is 2-year non-smoker is 17 out of 22, 77%. Come on. And 4-year non-smoker is 72 out of 85 for 85%. All right, so just to make a good graph here and make sure that it's clear, red is going to be non-smoker. Blue is smoker. Okay, these are kind of things that they look for when you get to the AP test, when you're labeling your graphs. They want things to be very clear what you're talking about, okay? So it might be that when you get to the AP test, okay, you only have a pencil, okay? So you may need to do it such that you do lines in the bars like this, and then in the other one you do up and down bars in it, or side to side bars, something like that, okay, to clearly label what you're talking about. Okay, make sure it's very evident to them what you're doing when you've only got one color. Okay, I like the 2 colors while we're in here as much as possible, but again, if you don't want to use 2 colors, you don't have 2 colors, whatever, then just make sure you clearly label how to distinguish the bars, or write letters in them, write NS for non-smoker, S for smoker, something like that that clues in, okay, whoever is grading, okay, there's a whole panel of teachers that grade these tests at the end of the year. They need to all know, okay, they're not all going to be just like me, so they're not all going to know how we've done things. So you've got to make sure that your distinction's very clear for them, okay? Just my little AP test plug there for, yeah, anyways. All right, so let's go with all the smoker ones first. Okay, so for high school smoker, we're at 34%, so somewhere up in here. Okay, and then just color it in, doesn't have to be super wide. Again, your non-smoker bar is going to touch it on that one, but then you're going to skip some space, and then we'll do the 2-year one. So 2-year smoker is 23%. And 4-year smoker is 15%. All right, and then non-smoker for high school is 66%. 2-year is 77%. And 4-year is 85%. All right, and just so again, this is a side-by-side bar chart. Okay, I feel like this kind of gives a little bit of a better comparison for smoker versus non-smoker at each level. I feel like it's a little clearer to see what those percentages are when you can see them right beside each other, instead of trying to read them out of, I'm going to scroll up for just a second. Instead of trying to read out of here what these percentages might be, it's a little easier to see kind of what they are here, where it's just one thing being talked about in each bar. Sometimes I may specifically tell you which one to use. Okay, other times I may say just draw a picture of it, draw a chart, draw a graph, whatever, and you can pick which one you like the best or which one you think is most fitting for the material. I know Brooke's always going to pick a pie chart.
Yes, always.
Okay, with the pie chart, it would have the same principle. Okay, you just break it up into that percentage of the whole circle. Okay, and do one for you have two options. You could do one for high school, one for 2-year, one for 4-year. So you could do 3 pie charts, or you could do one for smokers and one for non-smokers and then divide it up.
You want to see the pie chart.
Okay. Okay, so there's technically, again, a couple ways that some of those can work, and that's fine. Because also notice that I total the 4-year smoker and non-smoker, 85 and 15 is 100. Okay, and those percentages should add up to be 100 when you do that. So that's another way to check and make sure you've done your math correctly. Okay, sometimes it's a rounding issue, so just be aware that if it's like 1% off, like 99% or 101%, that's probably just from a rounding thing, and don't stress about 1% kind of thing. So from this, again, we could see that we could make a conclusion that as education level increases, the percentage of people who smoke decreases. Okay, so that's a conclusion we can draw from that. Any questions about any questions about any of this? Sometimes these example sheets that I give you may be 5 or 6 pages, and it may have a lot of examples. Okay, this was one really long example that we used. It really just depends on the section. I don't always do a ton of examples in here because sometimes I think one is almost sufficient to cover it. I have a few others that I could go over if you guys feel like you need to see more. Some of them, I mean, how are we feeling? Do we feel like we want to see another example? Do we feel like we're kind of okay with this stuff, the percentages and all? Or want to try a couple and then on Monday we can go over them? I'm looking at, I'm a little confused looking at my stuff from last year, trying to figure out what I assigned last year and what I want to, oh, there it is, Oh, these are quiz review problems. That's why those are there. Okay. Never mind. Also, really quick before I give you guys a few problems to work on, know that because of the way these chapters are, no, don't go off. Because of the way these chapters are, I don't always give a quiz every 2 chapters, but it's usually around every 2 chapters that you get a quiz. And then if we get to, like, for example, next Wednesday is mid-quarter. I don't know if y'all are aware of that. But a lot of times I would have given a test by now. However, I don't really feel that we've done enough to have a test. So what I usually do with chapter 1 is after chapter 3, so I do a quiz on chapters 2 and chapters 3. Okay, so we could be potentially looking at a quiz as early as next Wednesday. Okay, I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to be Wednesday, but just be prepared that that's the earliest I'll give you one. Okay, and then we would cover chapter 4, and then there would be a test on 2 through 4. Okay, and then what I do is we do 5 and 6. I do a quiz on 5 and 6, and then I do a test on the entire unit, because all of this stuff builds on each other and you've got to kind of keep it in your brain. But I try to get it so that helps break it up and so that you have grades coming in, because right now obviously there's not very many grades. And this class won't get a ton of grades because I give 1 homework grade per chapter and a quiz grade every 2 chapters, and then the test grade. So it doesn't get a ton of grades, but I do try to be pretty fair in my grading so that a test or something like that doesn't kill your grade. So just FYI. Okay, I'm going to get the book because I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys good representation of problems here. Let's see. Pinocchio's in chapter 4. How cute. There's a random picture of Okay, all that to say. Let's see. 7, 11.
This is chapter 2, right?
Chapter 3. 13. 19. One thing you'll also notice, I don't know if Mr. Cass pointed this out to you guys, a lot of problems will start and then it'll skip a couple problems and then that problem will be continued. Okay, so for example, 21 and 23 are buddied problems. Okay, they go together. So, and then 29. Okay, and another thing I'll say is, obviously in Algebra 2, I did my best to check you guys' homework. Each problem, I go through, I tell you if it was right or wrong. Okay, with odd problems in stats, I'm expecting you to check your own problems. Okay, if you have a question, then when you come in, we can talk about it and go over it. But know that it just takes a really long time to grade these stats problems and to correct them. And it's kind of pointless for me to, I'll look at your problems and stuff like that. But it's kind of pointless for me to write down all the right answers for you when you have all the right answers in the back of your book. Okay, occasionally, because of the way the buddy problems work, I may assign an odd and an even. So if you need the answer to the even, always let me know, or I'll make sure we go over them. Sometimes I forget to go over them, so if I do, just let me know and we'll go over it. I do have more examples that I can work on Monday if we feel like there's stuff that we still don't understand, but these are a pretty good representation of that. And then probably Tuesday is a review day, and probably a quiz on Wednesday on chapter 2 and chapter 3. Okay, and I try to send you guys home with a review sheet that is from the test generator that I use, that is a sample quiz, and I send it home to you with answers. So you can try to take the quiz on your own. And I usually try to get harder problems on the review than are actually on the quiz or the test. So